The Great Hall of Harmony Station buzzed with the voices of 100 different species. Ambassador Yuna stood at the center podium, her hands shaking as she held the datapad. The massive screens around the chamber showed images that made even the bravest aliens look away. Earth was burning. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were now nothing but ash and twisted metal. The sky above Seoul was black with smoke. New York's towering buildings lay in ruins. The proud monuments of human civilization crumbled under the relentless attack of something the humans called the Void Swarm. Yuna's voice cracked as she spoke into the microphone. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Earth needs your help. The Void Swarm has already destroyed half of our world. Our military forces are fighting, but we cannot win this battle alone. In the front rows, Chairman Veltar of the Altari stretched his massive wings. His golden feathers caught the light as he turned to whisper something to his aide. The bird-like alien's bright yellow eyes showed no concern for the images on the screens. To him, humans were just another young species that had gotten themselves into trouble. "How many of your people have died?" asked Elder Korvesh of the Vorthak. The crystal being's voice echoed strangely in the chamber. His people had lived for millions of years. To them, human civilization was barely worth noticing. 12 billion so far, Yuna answered. Her voice was steady, but tears ran down her face. "We have evacuation ships trying to get people to safety, but the swarm learns too fast. Every defense we build, it breaks through in hours." Trade Prince Malvek of the Kalani laughed. The sound was wet and unpleasant, like water gurgling in a drain. 12 billion? That is barely a trading post for us. Why should we risk our fleets for such a small number? Captain Taman stood in the human section, his fists clenched. He had served with human marines on 3 different worlds. He had seen what humans could do when they fought together. But here, in this fancy chamber, they looked weak and desperate. Dr. Hana leaned forward in her seat. She had spent 15 years working with alien scientists. She had helped develop new medicines and shared human knowledge freely. "The Void Swarm is not just a human problem," she said. "The data shows it will spread to other worlds. If we work together now, we can stop it before it grows stronger." Chairman Veltar stood up, his enormous form casting shadows across the chamber. "The Altari have fought real wars, human. We have faced the darkness of Kepler and the machine minds of Vega. Your little bug problem is not our concern." "But the projections show," Yuna began. "Projections from a species that has only been in space for 200 years, interrupted Elder Korvesh. "We have seen 1,000 threats like this. They always burn themselves out. Your people will adapt, or they will not. That is the way of the universe." The screens showed new footage from Earth. Human soldiers were making their last stand at the ruins of London. They fought with weapons that seemed primitive compared to alien technology, but they fought with a fury that made some of the watching aliens step back. "Look at them fight," whispered Councillor Prex of the Novan Commonwealth. "Perhaps we should..." "Should what?" Trade Prince Malvek cut him off. "Waste our resources on a world that contributes nothing to galactic trade? Humans buy more than they sell. They consume more than they produce. The galaxy will be better without their drain on resources." Yuna played the final message from Earth's president. The elderly man stood in a bunker deep underground, but his voice was calm and strong. "To our friends in the stars, we do not ask for charity. We ask for the help that allies give to each other. We have shared our knowledge, our culture, our friendship. We have fought beside you in the border wars. We have opened our world to refugees from 7 different species. Now we ask you to remember that friendship." The message ended with explosions in the background. The transmission cut to static. The voting began immediately. The Altari voted no. Their military was too important to risk on a dead world. The Vorthak voted no. They said it was not logical to save a species that could not save itself. The Kalani voted no. There was no profit in helping humans. One by one, the species of the galaxy turned their backs on Earth. Some looked uncomfortable. A few tried to speak in favor of helping. But the major powers had decided, and the smaller species would not risk their displeasure. Captain Taman watched it all with growing rage. He remembered fighting beside Corporal Kim on Zerion Station. He remembered how Sergeant Park had saved his squad when the raider attack came. He remembered the human medics who had treated alien wounded without question. Dr. Hannah buried her face in her hands. All those years of building relationships, of showing aliens that humans could be trusted. All those late nights in laboratories, sharing research that could help everyone. It meant nothing now, Ambassador. Una stood alone at the podium as the final votes were counted. Earth's request for aid was denied by a vote of 47-3. Even species that humans had helped in the past voted against them. The decision is made, announced Chairman Veltar. The Galactic Council will not intervene in the Earth situation. The humans must handle their own problems. As the aliens filed out of the chamber, chatting about their dinner plans and trade agreements, the screen still showed Earth burning. The last transmission from the human homeworld was a simple message. Remember us. Una gathered her papers with shaking hands. She had been a diplomat for 20 years. She had believed that words could solve any problem, that reason could overcome fear and prejudice. Today had taught her that she was wrong. Captain Taman approached her as the chamber emptied. Ambassador, what do we do now? Una looked at the empty seats where 47 species had just sentenced her world to death. We remember this day, Captain. We remember who our friends really are. The screens went dark. Earth's voice was silent. But in the shadows of Harmony Station, other messages were being sent on channels that the Galactic Council could not monitor. Messages that would change everything. 6 months had passed since Earth went silent. The aliens who had voted against helping humanity went back to their normal lives. They signed trade deals, fought small wars over mining rights, and argued about tax rates. The burning of the human homeworld was old news. Admiral Wu Jin of the Altari 4th Fleet was reviewing patrol reports when his aide rushed into his office. The young bird warrior's feathers were ruffled with panic. Sir, we have lost contact with Kalar Prime, the aide reported. Wu Jin barely looked up from his datapad. Probably just a communication relay failure. Send a repair ship. Sir, we tried that. The repair ship also went silent. Then we sent a full patrol squadron. They transmitted for 3 hours, then nothing. That got Wu Jin's attention. He activated the main display and called up the sector map. Kalar Prime was one of their strongest military worlds, home to 2 million Altari soldiers. It did not just go quiet. The first images from the long-range sensors made Wu Jin's blood freeze. Kalar Prime was covered in the same black biomechanical structures that had consumed Earth. The Void Swarm had somehow crossed 300 light-years in just 6 months. How is this possible? Wu Jin whispered. The human said it was slow-moving. His aide pulled up the old human reports that the Council had ignored. Sir, the human data shows the swarm learns from each world it consumes. It gets faster and smarter. Within a week, 2 more Altari worlds had fallen. The proud bird warriors who had mocked human weakness found their advanced weapons useless. The swarm adapted to every attack, every strategy, every defensive position. Worse, it seemed to know exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage. On the crystal homeworld of Vorthakis, Elder Nami stood in the great library that had preserved knowledge for 10 million years. Her crystal body rang like a bell as she accessed the ancient archives, searching for any reference to something like the Void Swarm. Elder, the outer colonies are reporting strange signals, reported Scholar Davin. The same pattern the humans described before Earth fell. Nami's light dimmed with worry. The Vorthak had dismissed the human warnings as primitive fear. Now that same threat was approaching their worlds. What do our scientists say about stopping it? She asked. They cannot agree on anything, Elder. Every simulation we run shows different results. It is as if the swarm changes its nature faster than we can study it. The attack on Vorthakis came 3 days later. The swarm's bioships moved differently than they had when fighting humans or Altari. They used crystal-cutting frequencies that the Vorthak had never shared with other species. Somehow the swarm had learned secrets that only the crystal beings knew. Trade Prince Hyunsik watched his merchant empire crumble from his office on Port Kalani. The amphibious Kalani controlled most of the galaxy's trade routes, but trade was impossible when entire systems kept going dark. Sir, we have lost 17 trade convoys this month, reported his assistant. The shipping companies are refusing to enter half the galaxy. Hyunsik's gills fluttered with stress. What about our defense contracts? Surely the military worlds can protect the trade routes. Sir, Most of the military worlds have fallen to the swarm. The Altari have lost 8 fleet bases. The Vorthak crystal fortresses are going dark one by one. Even the machine worlds are reporting problems. The prince stared at the galactic trade map on his wall. Red zones marked areas where the swarm had been detected. 6 months ago, there had been one red dot where Earth used to be. Now red covered a third of the map. The human worlds were never major trade partners anyway, he had told the council 6 months ago. The galaxy will be better off without them. Now he wondered if he had been wrong. Back on Harmony Station, the same council chamber where humanity's pleas had been ignored, now echoed with panicked debates. Chairman Veltar's golden feathers were dull and ragged. He had not slept properly in weeks. The situation is clearly more serious than we initially calculated, he announced to the remaining council members. We need to coordinate our defense efforts. Coordinate what? Demanded Admiral Wu Jin, who had flown in from the front lines. Half my fleet is gone. The swarm learns every tactic we use within hours. Our weapons become useless before we can fire them twice. Elder Nami's crystal form flickered weakly. The ancient archives contain references to adaptive threats, but nothing on this scale. The swarm's learning rate exceeds our ability to counter it. Trade Prince Hyunsik slammed his webbed hand on the table. Why did we not study the human data more carefully? They fought this thing for months. They must have learned something useful. Because they were primitive deathworlders, Veltar snapped. How could a species that has only been in space for 2 centuries know more than civilizations that have existed for millions of years? The question hung in the air like a curse. Around the chamber, the representatives of 47 species sat in uncomfortable silence. They had all voted to abandon humanity, and now they were paying the price. Dr. Hana, one of the few humans still on the station, stood up slowly. She had lost most of her friends when Earth fell, but she had stayed to help coordinate refugee efforts. Now the aliens were looking at her like she might have answers they had thrown away. The human researchers who studied the swarm found something important, she said quietly. But that data was on Earth when it fell. What kind of data? Asked Admiral Wu Jin. Biological patterns, psychological profiles. The swarm is not just a weapon. It thinks, it plans. It remembers. Dr. Hana's voice was barely above a whisper. And it remembers who helped and who did not. The chamber fell silent. Outside the great windows they could see refugee ships arriving hourly. Survivors from worlds that no longer existed, species that had once been proud and powerful, now reduced to homeless wanderers. The attack pattern is not random, continued Dr. Hana. Look at which worlds fell first. Look at which species were targeted. The swarm is hitting the homeworlds of everyone who voted against helping Earth. Chairman Veltar's eyes widened. That is impossible. The swarm is just a biological weapon. It cannot understand politics or remember votes, and can it not? Dr. Hana activated a holographic display showing the spread of the swarm. Every species that voted to help humanity has been left alone so far. Every species that voted no has lost major worlds. The swarm consumed Earth's databases. It knows who humanity's friends were. The implications hit the council like a physical blow. The Void Swarm was not just consuming worlds randomly. It was following a deliberate plan. A plan that seemed designed to punish those who had abandoned Earth in its darkest hour. As if summoned by their growing fear, alarms began blaring throughout Harmony Station. On the main display, long-range sensors showed a massive formation of bioships emerging from hyperspace. The Void Swarm had found the Galactic Council's headquarters, but as the aliens prepared for their final battle, something strange happened. The swarm ships stopped just outside the station's defense grid. They sat there waiting, as if they were expecting something. In the distance, barely visible on the sensors, other ships were moving. Ships with designs no one recognized. Ships that seemed to be herding the swarm like a shepherd guides his flock. Dr. Hana stared at the sensor readings with growing hope and terror. The energy signatures were familiar, but impossibly advanced. They looked almost human. Scout Commander Jiwon of the Altari felt sick as her ship approached what used to be the human colony of New Sol. The planet had been silent for 8 months, ever since the Void Swarm reached this sector. Her mixed crew of aliens searched desperately for any sign that humans might have survived. Sensors show no life signs on the surface, reported Dr. Sunho, the Vorthak crystal scientist. His normally bright glow was dim with exhaustion. But the swarm signatures are also fading. Something drove them away from this world. Captain Minji of the Kalani Navy checked her instruments again. The energy readings are strange. There are active defense systems, but they are not using any technology we recognize. As their ship entered orbit, they could see the scars of battle covering New Sol's surface. Cities lay in ruins, but something was different here. The black biomechanical structures that marked swarm territory were broken and burned. Whatever had happened here, the swarm had not won easily. Look at those weapon impacts, Jiwan pointed to the massive craters dotting the landscape. Those are not from standard human weapons. The energy output is 10 times higher than anything Earth ever showed us. They landed near what had been the capital city. The streets were empty, but automated defense turrets tracked their movement. The weapons were clearly human-made, but they used power sources that no alien species had ever seen before. Dr. Sunho scanned one of the destroyed swarm creatures. These biomechanical forms showed damage from weapons that disrupt their adaptive systems. Someone found a way to prevent the swarm from learning their attack patterns. Humans? Asked Captain Minji. It has to be, Jiwan replied. But these are not the weapons Earth was using when we last had contact. This technology is decades ahead of anything they showed the Galactic Council. They found the first clue in an abandoned command bunker. A data terminal was still active, protected by shields that had kept it running for months without maintenance. The message it contained changed everything they thought they knew about humanity. Emergency Protocol 7 is now in effect, the recording said. The speaker was a human admiral they had never seen before. All diplomatic assets are to withdraw immediately. The Deathworlder fleet is taking over all military operations. Civilian populations have been evacuated to secure locations. We are no longer bound by the restrictions of the Galactic Accords. Dr. Sunho's crystal body rang with confusion. Deathworlder fleet? We thought that was just a human myth. Their way of making themselves sound more dangerous than they really were. What restrictions? Captain Minji wondered aloud. The humans never seemed restricted by anything in their weapons development. They found more clues as they explored the ruins. Weapon fragments made from metals that did not exist in known space. Energy cells that stored more power than some starship reactors. Computer systems that processed information faster than Vorthak crystal networks. How long have they been hiding this technology? Jiwan asked as they examined a human battlesuit that could apparently let one soldier fight an entire swarm cluster. The answer came from another data cache, this one hidden deep underground. The recording was from Admiral Kyung-soo, who had commanded Earth Space Forces during the first swarm attack. His message was addressed to someone called the War Council. The peaceful approach has failed, Admiral Kyung-soo said in the recording. The Council species have shown their true nature. They will abandon us when we need them most. Activate all hidden assets. Begin Phase 2 of the contingency plan. It is time to show the galaxy what Deathworlders really are. Dr. Sunho replayed the message 3 times. Phase 2? There was a Phase 1? How long have the humans been planning for this? They found evidence that human colonies throughout the galaxy had been secretly evacuated weeks before the swarm attacks. The evacuation was so complete that no bodies were ever found, no survivors left behind. It was as if entire populations had simply vanished. Where did they go? Captain Minji asked as they reviewed evacuation records from 12 different worlds. There are no human ships in known space, no refugees at any alien worlds. 4 billion humans have just disappeared. The search team expanded their investigation to other former human worlds. Everywhere they found the same pattern. Complete evacuation followed by devastating battles where unknown weapons had fought the void swarm to a standstill. The humans were gone, but they had left behind defenses that even the adaptive swarm could not overcome. On the mining world of New Busan, they discovered the most shocking evidence yet. A manufacturing facility that had been producing weapons and ships in secret for decades. The factory was completely automated and had been running without human oversight since the evacuations began. These production records show they were building a fleet, Dr. Sunho reported. Thousands of ships all using technology far beyond what they shared with the Council. They have been preparing for war while pretending to be peaceful traders and diplomats. Captain Minji found shipping records that made her gills flutter with shock. These weapons were not all being sent to human worlds. Look at these destinations. They were arming other species too. Small groups, isolated colonies, anyone who was not part of the major galactic powers. They were building an alliance, Jiwan realized. While our governments ignored them, The humans were secretly supporting anyone who might stand with them. The final piece of the puzzle came from a message beacon hidden in the asteroid field, where Earth's moon used to orbit. The beacon activated when their ship approached, broadcasting a message that chilled them to their cores. "To the species who abandoned us," the message began. Ambassador Yuna's voice was calm, but there was steel underneath that had never been there before. "You have chosen to let us face extinction alone. Very well. We accept your decision. But remember this, we are deathworlders. We do not die easily, and we do not forget." The message continued with technical data about the Void Swarm, information that could have saved millions of lives if the aliens had bothered to listen, but it also contained a warning that made their blood run cold. The swarm was contained on Earth for 6 months while we studied it. We learned its weaknesses, its patterns, its goals. We could have destroyed it easily, but we chose not to. Instead, we set it free to test you, to see if you would remember the bonds of alliance when tested. You failed that test. Dr. Sunho's glow flickered as the full implications hit him. They released the swarm deliberately. This whole crisis is a test? You abandoned us when we asked for help. Ambassador Yuna's recording continued. Now you will see what happens when deathworlders stop asking and start taking. The galaxy belongs to those strong enough to protect it. We are coming home to claim what is ours. The beacon shut down after delivering its message, leaving the 3 aliens alone in the silence of dead space. Around them, the automated defenses of a dozen human worlds continued their vigilant watch, waiting for masters who might never return. "We need to get this information back to the Council," Jiwan said finally. "Will they believe us?" asked Captain Minji. "This means everything we thought we knew about humans was wrong. They were never the weak species begging for our protection. They were predators pretending to be prey." Dr. Sunho's crystal form dimmed as he processed the data they had gathered. "The question is not whether they will believe us. The question is what we do when the humans decide to come back. And from these records, I think they are already on their way." As their ship left the dead system, long-range sensors detected something moving in the deep void between galaxies. Massive energy signatures, thousands of them, all heading toward known space. The Deathworlder fleet was real, and it was coming home to a galaxy that had forgotten how to be afraid of Earth's children. Archivist Do-hyun had spent his entire crystal life believing that the Vorthak were the wisest species in the galaxy. 10 million years of accumulated knowledge made them the keepers of truth for all civilizations. But as he stared at the files intelligence officer Yunbi had brought him, he realized how wrong they had all been. "This cannot be correct," he said, his crystal form flickering with distress. "You are telling me that Earth was never actually destroyed?" Yunbi nodded grimly. She had worked closely with humans for 15 years before the crisis began. She had thought she knew them well. "The evidence is clear. The entire attack on Earth was staged. The explosions, the burning cities, the desperate evacuation ships, it was all a massive deception. They sat in the deepest archives of Harmony Station, surrounded by data cores that contained the secrets of 100 civilizations. But the files spread before them told a story that made those ancient secrets seem like children's games. Look at this shipping manifest." Yunbi pointed to a document that had been hidden in routine trade records. 3 months before the first swarm attack, Earth quietly ordered enough holographic projectors to cover an entire planet. They claimed it was for a cultural festival. Do-hyun processed the information with growing horror. "And this energy signature analysis shows that the explosions we saw were controlled demolitions, not weapon impacts. The humans destroyed empty buildings and projected images of populated cities being consumed. The real shock came when they found the evacuation records, not the desperate refugee flights that the galaxy had witnessed, but careful, planned relocations that had been going on for years. Earth's entire population had been moved to hidden worlds in uncharted space, one ship at a time, so gradually that no one had noticed. The population of Earth was officially 8 billion when the crisis began," Yunbi said, "but immigration and birth records show they actually had less than 1 million people left on the planet. Everyone else had already been evacuated to safe locations." Captain Seung-ho appeared in the archive chamber like a ghost. The human intelligence officer had been working undercover on Harmony Station for 3 years, pretending to be a refugee coordinator. Now he stepped out of the shadows with a smile that made both aliens take a step back. "You are learning the truth," he said calmly. "Good. It is time for the galaxy to understand what really happened." Do-hyun's crystal body rang with alarm. You are human military intelligence, are you not? How long have you been watching us? Since the day after your council voted to abandon Earth, Sung-ho replied. We needed to monitor how the test was progressing, to see if any species would figure out the truth on their own. Yunbi felt her world shifting underneath her feet. Test? You called the deaths of billions of people a test? What billions? Sung-ho asked. The Void Swarm consumed exactly 17 humans during its entire rampage across the galaxy. All volunteers who stayed behind to make the deception look real. Everyone else has been safely relocated to our hidden worlds. The human activated a holographic projector that showed the true scope of the deception. Earth had not been a victim of the Void Swarm. Earth had created it. The swarm is biological technology that we developed from samples found on dead worlds in the Galactic Rim, Sung-ho explained. We studied it, improved it, and learned to control it completely. It was designed to be the perfect test of character. The display showed how the swarm had been programmed to behave. It would attack worlds viciously, but only those whose governments had abandoned their allies. Species that maintained their mutual defense treaties found that the swarm mysteriously avoided their territory. You let it destroy entire civilizations just to prove a point? Do-hyun asked in horror. We let it reveal who our true allies were, Sung-ho corrected. The species that stood by their principles even when it cost them resources were protected. Those who abandoned their commitments were given a demonstration of why such commitments exist. Yunbi pulled up casualty reports from across the galaxy. 12 billion aliens have died because of your test. 12 billion aliens died because their own governments chose trade profits over mutual aid, Sung-ho replied coldly. We offered the solution freely. We shared our research data. We begged for cooperation. Your leaders chose to let others die rather than risk their own convenience. The scope of human planning became clear as more files were revealed. For 50 years, humanity had been secretly building the most powerful military force in galactic history. While pretending to be a minor species dependent on alien technology, they had been developing weapons that made the council fleets look like toys. The Deathworlder fleet, Do-hyun whispered. It really exists. 5,000 ships, Sung-ho confirmed. Each one powerful enough to destroy a star system. We built them in secret shipyards in empty space, using resources from worlds that officially did not exist. We have been preparing for the day when we would need to stand alone. The revelation split the remaining alien governments. In emergency sessions across the galaxy, leaders struggled to process what they had learned. Some, like Admiral Wu Jin, advocated for immediate surrender and appeals for human mercy. We made a mistake, the Altari officer argued before his high command. We should have helped Earth when they asked. Now we must accept whatever punishment the humans demand. But others, particularly among the surviving Vorthak elders, saw the human deception as proof of inherent treachery. Elder Nami spoke for many when she addressed the Crystal Councils. They manipulated us with lies and deception, she declared. They murdered billions to prove their superiority. This is not justice, it is tyranny. We must resist with everything we have left. The debate raged across what remained of galactic civilization. Were the humans justified in testing their allies? Did the scale of alien abandonment warrant the scale of human response? Or were they simply predators who had revealed their true nature? Captain Sung-ho watched the political chaos with satisfaction. You see how quickly your unity crumbles when tested? This is why the galaxy needs proper leadership. Leadership from Earth? Yunbi asked. Leadership from those strong enough to protect the innocent and wise enough to punish the guilty, he replied. Your species proved they cannot be trusted with power. They will abandon anyone if the price is right. We will not make that mistake. As the debates continued, long-range sensors detected the approach that everyone had been dreading. The Deathworlder fleet was crossing into known space, its massive ships moving in perfect formation. At their head flew the flagship Retribution, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Admiral Jinho sends his greetings, Captain Sung-ho announced as communications came online. He wants the Council to know that humanity is coming home, and this time we will not be asking for permission. The transmission ended, leaving the aliens to face a terrible truth. The species they had dismissed as primitive Deathworlders had become the most powerful force in the galaxy, and they were no longer interested in being junior partners in galactic civilization. The age of human diplomacy was over. The age of human dominance was about to begin, and every alien leader who had voted to abandon Earth now faced the consequences of that choice. delivered by the children of the world they thought they had left to die. The space around Harmony Station filled with ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 5,000 vessels of impossible size emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls scarred by battles fought in distant galaxies. At their center, the flagship Retribution dwarfed even the largest alien dreadnoughts. Fleet Admiral Jinho stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at the pathetic collection of alien ships that had gathered to make their final stand. His weathered face showed no emotion as he reviewed the tactical displays. After 30 years of fighting in the void between galaxies, this felt almost too easy. "Admiral, the alien fleet is taking defensive positions around the station," reported Commander Hiram from the tactical station. "They have about 800 ships total." 800, Jinho mused. Against 5,000. They either have courage or they are fools. Perhaps both. The human fleet had spent 3 decades fighting wars that would have destroyed any other species. They had conquered machine civilizations in the Andromeda Galaxy. They had hunted star-eating parasites in the Magellanic Clouds. They had learned to wage war on a scale that the local galaxy could not even imagine. On Harmony Station, the alien commanders prepared for their final battle. Admiral Wu Jin of the Altari stood beside Elder Nami of the Vorthak and Trade Prince Hyunsik of the Kalani. 3 species that had once competed for power now united by desperation. "We all know we cannot win this fight," Admiral Wu Jin said quietly, "but we must try. For the honor of our people." Elder Nami's crystal form pulsed with dim light. "The humans have shown themselves to be masters of deception and manipulation. Perhaps they can be reasoned with? Reason?" Trade Prince Hyunsik's gills fluttered bitterly. "We had our chance to reason with them. We chose profit over principle. Now we pay the price." The first human transmission came not as a threat, but as something far more terrifying, an invitation to surrender. The voice belonged to someone the aliens knew well, though they had never understood who she really was. "Greetings, former colleagues," said Ambassador Yuna, though she now wore the uniform of a Grand Admiral. "I trust you remember me from our many diplomatic discussions. I hope you found them educational." The sight of their former desperate petitioner now commanding a fleet of impossible power sent shockwaves through the alien ranks. The gentle diplomat they had dismissed had become the architect of their downfall. "You lied to us," Admiral Wu Jin transmitted back. "You pretended to be weak when you were strong. You manipulated us into revealing our true nature." "We gave you the truth about the Void Swarm threat," Yuna replied calmly. "We offered you genuine friendship and alliance. You chose to believe we were weak because that made it easier to abandon us. The deception was in your minds, not in our words." Grand Admiral Yuna's message continued with devastating calm. "You called us deathworlders with contempt, as if surviving on a harsh world made us less than you. Today you will learn why death itself fears to walk on our world. We do not just survive, but we master. We do not just endure, we conquer." The alien fleet opened fire first. 800 ships unleashed everything they had against the human formation. Energy beams, kinetic projectiles, quantum warheads. The accumulated military might of galactic civilization focused on the human fleet. The human shields absorbed the attack without even flickering. Weapons that could destroy. Planets made no impression on the energy barriers, protecting the Deathworlder. Fleet. The aliens had brought kitchen knives to fight against. God's Admiral Jinho watched the futile alien attack with something like pity. "Return fire," he ordered. "Minimum power. We want to disable, not destroy." The human response was surgical in its precision. Instead of overwhelming firepower, they used targeted electromagnetic pulses that shut down alien ships without killing their crews. In minutes, the mighty fleets of the Galactic Council floated helplessly in space, their weapons offline and their shields down. But as total defeat seemed certain, Admiral Jinho surprised everyone by ordering a ceasefire, all alien vessels. "This is Fleet Admiral Jinho of the Terran Empire," he announced. "You have fought with honor despite fighting for dishonorable leaders. We offer terms. The terms were simple and devastating. The species that had abandoned humanity would become protectorates of Earth. Their governments would be dissolved. Their military forces would be disbanded. But their people would be protected, fed, and given the chance to earn redemption through service." Trade Prince Hyunsik was the first to break. "We accept," he transmitted. "The Kalani submit to human authority. One by one, the alien commanders surrendered. The great powers that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years bent their knees to a species they had dismissed as primitive, children. But the greatest shock came when the void swarm ships that had been terrorizing the galaxy suddenly powered down across all affected worlds. The biomechanical nightmares that had consumed entire civilizations simply stopped moving, revealing that humanity had maintained complete control over their creation from the very beginning. "The test is over," Grand Admiral Yuna announced to the galaxy. "The void swarm was our tool, not our enemy. Every world it consumed, every life it claimed, every civilization it destroyed, all of it was preventable. All you had to do was show that you cared about something other than your own immediate interests." The survivors of the alien species that had passed the test, those who had voted to help Earth despite the cost, found human ships appearing in their territory not as conquerors but as protectors. The species that had maintained their principles were offered partnership in the new galactic order. "We are not tyrants," Admiral Jinho explained in his message to the galaxy. "We are gardeners. We will remove the weeds that choke out new growth. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will ensure that no species ever again faces extinction alone, while others count their profits." Captain Taman, who had watched humanity's humiliation in the council chambers 3 years before, now stood as the new governor of Harmony Station. The human Marines under his command moved with the confidence of soldiers who had conquered galaxies. "The age of the Galactic Council is over," he announced to the assembled alien representatives. "The age of the Terran Empire begins. We will be fair, but we will be firm. We will protect the innocent and punish the guilty, and we will never again allow the strong to abandon the weak." Ambassador Yuna, now revealed as one of humanity's most brilliant strategic minds, took her place as the first human empress of the galaxy. Her coronation was attended by representatives from every surviving species, some as allies, others as subjects, all as witnesses to the dawn of a new age. In the years that followed, human fleets would depart for other galaxies, carrying the message that Earth's children protected those who deserved protection and destroyed those who preyed on others. The Deathworld that had given birth to humanity became the capital of an empire that spanned the stars. The species that had voted to abandon Earth learned to live under human rule. Some found it surprisingly benevolent. Humans were harsh but fair, demanding service but providing protection. Others never stopped resenting their fall from power, plotting rebellions that human intelligence services crushed before they could begin. But all of them learned the lesson that Earth had taught. In a dangerous universe, the only true safety comes from standing together. And if you choose to stand alone when others need help, you may find yourself truly alone when your own time of need arrives. The galaxy had called them deathworlders as an insult. Now it spoke the word with respect, fear, and gratitude. For the children of the Deathworld had become the shepherds of all life among the stars, and their protection came at the price of never again forgetting the bonds that tie all thinking beings together.